Thank you to everyone who's joining us this evening for How to Market Your Sales Horse. We have with us tonight Emily Brallier-Curtis of Miramont Equine and Matt and Wendy Woolley of EquiSport Photography. Now I'm going to turn it over to them to talk about the best way to present your sales horse, everything from writing copy to taking those jaw-dropping photos that's going to get you and your sales horse all the attention that you need. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
All right. You want us to start?
Yeah.
Go, Wendy.
No, how about Matt?
Well, we've just been sitting here talking about some of the similarities and some of the differences between different types of sale horses. My and Wendy's background is a little bit more thoroughbred racing. Emily's background is a little more dressage and sport horses. So there are some obvious similarities between trying to get a good photo of your horse. You know, like clean backgrounds, no cars or trailers or limited fencing, that sort of thing. But then there's particulars with sport horses versus thoroughbred race horses that Emily and I were just arguing about. Legs for one thing, so.
Yeah, Matt and Wendy tend to be sticklers about legs and confirmation photos like you'd see with the stallions or the yearlings. And for sport horses and dressage, hunter jumper, we don't really care about the leg placement per se, but more that they look balanced and under themselves. And really, we like to see a good neck. That's really important to us too. A good neck.
Do you want me to play that video?
Yeah, just a little bit of background before you get ready to photograph your horse. If you're presenting it for a sale, there's some background things. It really starts the day before. Getting the horse turned out, probably out overnight in the summertime, brought in the morning, bathed, groomed, clipped, hoof dressing, and in sport horses,
Like you're going to go to a show.
Yeah.
Like you're going to a show.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the photo, you want your horse looking show worthy, whether that's going to the sales at Keeneland or if it's going to the local horse show in your neighborhood. You want to look ready for showing.
So if they've been out the night before, they have a little bit less pent up energy. If they've been in for 2 days in their stall, they're bucking and bronking, and they're not going to stand still very well for anyone.
What else did you want to say?
Well, let's go
Here.
to the.
All right. So we have this cute little video that, well, it's not cute. It's a video that we did of a confirmation shot over at Three Chimneys. Matt and I shoot for them, and we thought you guys would be interested in seeing exactly what happens when you have to do this, do a confirmation. So
and how many people it takes. It's not just a random guy with a camera out there. It's a crew.
all right.
This is a stallion named Funtastic. Just retired from horse racing and stands at stud at Three Chimneys Farm.
Right down, let him relax.
You can see I'm shooting from a low perspective. I am 17 paces back from the horse. I'm shooting at the same aperture for every horse.
See, legs.
Yeah.
We're getting the legs in there.
Right here.
The crew is getting the ears pricked and the head turned.
There, Jeff his head for us, just like we wanted.
Even the office crew comes out and helps.
So this is sort of what Matt's seeing. I think I had a little bit different angle, but that's our end product.
That's
right
the finished
there.
shot right there.
So that kind of gives you an idea of
Now,
what.
how long did that take from start to finish? You know, like you have this one beautiful photo. How long was the whole process for that one horse?
30 minutes.
And some horses take really long time just because they're a little bit either difficult because they won't stand still, or we had one horse at a farm. It took us 3 days.
Yeah,
We had to keep coming back because we couldn't get him. He was an older stallion. We won't say his name. And he had a minor stroke, and so his one ear couldn't quite go square unless he was really excited. And so we just kept trying and trying and trying. But we went back there several times just to get this one horse.
we finally walked the teaser stallion like within 2 feet of this horse's nose, and he finally pricked his ears up.
So, that's the extreme case. We've never had another horse quite that bad. But
And most of the time we'll do 2 or 3 good shots and give them to the farm as proofs, and they'll select the one they want. They're all, can you go to that other screen of all of the photos?
here,
So-
hold on. I'm going to share something else now.
Well, Wendy, when she comes to do our sale pictures, my team has a whole routine that we're ready to go with sounds on our phones, and we know an exact formula that works for our group. We can usually knock out those head and confirmation photos in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we've gotten
it down.
Yeah, when you have a
Got
really
it down
good
to science
team,
over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
when we have a good team, you can knock it out really quickly. But this is just all the stallions that we've been shooting their confirmation photos, but you can see they're all standing exactly the same. And you might recognize some of them.
See a lot of our Sire Madness horses in here.
We have, I see Matt put up the bottom right, one from the bottom up is Honor AP, who is going to be running in the Kentucky Derby in September. And
That's a yearling shot. So the point is that
They all
the
stand.
breeders and the buyers at the sale want to see what the stallion looks like. If they're breeding to this particular stallion, they want to bring a mare that's going to mate well and have the attributes of this stallion are going to work well with the mare. So if the stallion's a great big stallion, they may want to bring kind of a medium or smallish sized mare to kind of make that well together. But these are some of the shots over the past 15 years or so that we've done on the farms, and they're all, we didn't invent this. A guy named Tony Leonard kind of started this standardization process, and we've all kind of copied the same look just because that's the standard of the industry now.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting was that in that video you showed, as you guys were staging that shot, you mentioned you were 17 paces back. So, and that looked quite far away in the video.
Right.
Why were you so far away, but you still have the horse filling that frame? How does that work?
Great question. So I'm shooting with a longer lens, a 135 millimeter lens, or you could use another lens like a 70 to 200, but stick to a certain focal length. 135 millimeters just works for me. It kind of compresses the distant background. You saw the little barn in the background that's iconic of Three Chimneys Farm. So yet it blurs out the background with at f4. So the certain focal length, I'm 17 paces back just to
consistency.
bring consistency to every photo. And by the way, we're shooting on a hard surface, whether it's rubber bricks or asphalt or concrete, so we can see the pasterns and the hoofs, the feet, the hoofs, the feet.
Yeah. So.
And it wasn't a real busy background either. I noticed, you had that iconic Three Chimneys little cabin and a fence
Right.
line. It
Right.
wasn't, like multiple fence lines and a ring full of jumps and a bunch of busy stuff in the background. So
Yeah.
that
No cars, no trailers, no gators, no people, no other horses. So it's very clean, so the viewer's eye can see the horse itself.
We've actually used grass to our advantage too. If I've got a horse with special shoeing or
Yeah.
messy feed or something. We've actually moved horses into the grass to kind of mask that. So, you know,
That's a good strategy. There's
Thank
one
you.
one farm that I won't name, but they have one particular stallion that we always do in the
in the
grass.
grass.
Everybody else is on a harder surface.
On a harder surface, yeah, just this one. You guys can all do your research to try and find out what farm that is.
They
Everybody
call it
take
club
start looking.
I don't know what a clubfoot is, but that's what they call it.
So now your average, just like home, you know, horse seller or aftercare organization, they might not have a professional photographer at their disposal. And certainly, you know, we encourage people, like, if you're going to splurge on any one thing, splurge on good photography. But for the DIY crowd that just wants to do this themselves, and they might be limited with maybe just an iPhone or a very basic digital camera, what do you recommend, you know, from your perspective of a photographer with the coolest equipment in the world? What's a good way that those people can maximize and still get a really good sales photo with limited equipment?
So if you only have like an iPhone, everybody seems to have a smartphone of some sort. So the key thing is to make sure whatever photos you're doing is in an area that is not busy. So you'll lose the horse and all the busyness in the background. So try and make it clean. If you
Zoom it out too.
yeah, and if you can zoom it out.
Yeah, zoom your iPhone out.
And so try and get it as tight. Whenever you have the horse farther away from your background, the more the background gets blurred out, the more it goes away. So, and if you shoot tighter by zooming it in as much as you can, and then filling the screen with the horse, then that's also another way to kind of eliminate some of the busyness. If you're one of your sale horses is at a horse show. So horse shows, and I'm going to pick on the Western world, Kristen, sorry about this, but horse shows are notorious for having a lot of stuff in the background. So you're going to have to try and find that spot that doesn't have the pickup truck in the background, or a nice corner with good lighting. And then just say, this is where I'm going to have to shoot.
Unless it's something incredible. Like one time Wendy came to shoot sale horses, like pictures of my sale horses. And like, you can't make this up. The neighbor at the farm, this is before I had my farm, the neighbor at the farm I was at legitimately put a barn on a crane and lifted it up and swung it across. And Wendy's like, this is great. And she like shot the picture of the horse, like floppy eared going around with a legitimate barn swinging across the background.
Seriously, this pole barn was up in the air.
Moving it.
They were moving it and it was up in the air and this horse could care less. I said, this is great because we're showing the horse is not spooky.
Rock solid.
So like stuff like that is an exception. Or like at a horse show,
That's
I think
true.
you got one of my horses right as somebody like popped an umbrella open and the horse just like goes around and does their job. So
Yeah, there is, but if you're trying to do the beauty shots,
Sure, right.
you want it to be nice for the majority of your shots. You want it to be nice and clean, and doing that.
pole barn.
Can we go back to that grid view?
Okay, so
Right.
Matt wants to go back to this grid. So we're going to
He
go.
wants to talk about the legs. some
He
more.
wants to talk legs. Yeah.
Okay.
And share.
So you can do a lot of this with an iPhone. You'll see some similarities between pretty much all of these shots. If you most iPhones now, you can zoom out to a certain extent. That will help eliminate sky. Particularly if you have a dark horse against bright sky, you're going to lose a lot of detail. So the horizon line on all of these horses, or what you might call the virtual horizon line, comes out from the chest out through the tail of the horse on every one, even if there's no actual horizon line like this. Second from the right, on the lower right, you can kind of see exactly where that horizon is. So getting down from a lower perspective makes the horse more prominent. And every single time, just kind of shoot the same sort of thing, same focal length, clean backgrounds, eliminate sky.
Well, and like for ours, again, if they have like some sort of conformational fault, like make sure they're not camped out behind and try to make them look as evenly and balanced and as sporty, balanced as
Yeah,
possible. Like if they
balanced.
have a short neck, we try to stretch their neck out for the pictures, like with carrots and noises. that kind of stuff.
So can we keep
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about balance here? I'm going to go to, we have some other photos. This is another confirmation photo and that I did for Emily. And you can see that clearly I don't have the horse's legs like we do the thoroughbreds. And we stretched out, is it a her?
Yeah.
Yeah, we stretched out her neck, and then I always try to get one photo that's going to make everybody go, wow, look at
Yeah.
that, so that they'll go to the ad. All you need is one of those photos, and just to get people to go to that ad. So this was our wow photo for this particular horse. And
So for the sport horses, you can do, I mean, as long as it's not ridiculous, you can do it kind of artsy like this. Like this photo, I mean, even aside from interest on buying this mare, I got a lot of compliments on this photo and whoa, she's so beautiful and stunning and she looks powerful. I mean, it's really like an eye-catching photo, and I mean, it really kind of captured her
yeah,
because she was not.
but she's standing kind of balanced,
very
even though she's
balanced.
not. So I want to go back to the balance thing. And can I
Yeah.
go to some of these action shots? So Emily has me.
Now, I don't want to derail us too much from the balance discussion because I think that's really important. But I think one thing that's good to note here is that you didn't Photoshop this black background. You didn't crop the horse out and stick it on a black background, which
That's a good point. No, this is all done. I do this in this particular shot. I used cameras, so I mean, I used our flash. We have a lot of kind of flash gear, and this horse clearly could care less about it. Most horses actually don't care much about flash. This is in Emily's indoor arena, and it's really, any indoor arena is not attractive. So I'm sorry, unless maybe in Europe, some of them are, the mirrors are pretty, but generally speaking, the indoor arenas aren't the most beautiful places to shoot. And so I was able to just really underexpose the shot. And then I have these really great flashes that can pop the horse back into color and life. So.
Well, and this was the middle of winter. We took this in
January.
Yeah, it was like sleeting outside. So this is kind of what we had to work with. But Wendy's really the master at taking that.
I was thinking that. I was like, this looks like the horse has a winter coat, but it's the best looking winter coat I've ever seen. You know,
I can thank my working students for that. They can really groom.
They buffed them to a shine.
but all of your socks are clean. You know, your braids are correct. Your bridle is well fitted too. So I think the details here are worth noting as
Okay,
well.
but that's so important because like sometimes we'll do a headshot and we'll have to either redo it or stop in the middle, like we'll have a crooked noseband or something. Like those little details, they really make a difference. Like I'll fixate on that. If I'm shopping for a horse and all I can see is a cavesson that's like tilted 2 inches, it drives me bananas.
And it's such a little thing too. Like, you know, it takes just a minute just to make sure all your details are correct. But you're right. You know, if you have an otherwise beautifully staged photo and yeah, there's like something's not in a keeper or something loose, it drives me nuts.
So this is that same horse. Emily likes to have all the horse's legs wrapped before we go and shoot the action shots. But for the confirmation shot, we want to show the legs, so they have to have naked legs for that. Don't wrap them, otherwise people will question what is underneath those wraps. So it's important to have clean legs and you know, for your confirmation shot.
And that stems all the way, I mean, that spills like all the way over into when, like, okay, so all these amazing photos, once they get a buyer to your farm, I highly suggest that they are there for you to wrap the horse's legs and tack the horse so that it doesn't look like you have anything that you're trying to hide.
So Emily, I'm going back to balance again. In any of these photos, when you show the horse in action, you want them to be looking like their, you know, weight is distributed and they're balanced and strong. A lot of people love that 4 legs off the ground look, and that might look good if the horse is looking balanced. If the horse is tipping forward, it's going to look like it's going to fall on its face. And
Like this is a really good example of that, because this filly, she's actually 3 years old. So this filly that we shot in these photos, she's a 3-year-old. So like, as far as when I look at this horse, like I think Wendy did a really good job at catching like as much balance as she could for a 3-year-old. And so like, you know, little things like, I think it's really important to think about the subject you're shooting. Like if I was trying to sell this horse as a Grand Prix horse, this is not the photo I'd choose. But for a 3-year-old that's like soft in the neck and pushing from the hind leg, I think it's awesome.
And here, another. I like that. Emily and another friend of mine, Shirley McQuillan. She kind of clued me in on this. So when a horse is cantering, they look their biggest and beastiest and strongest when their outside hind is on the ground and they're pushing off. So the chest looks big, the legs are going up, the horse is uphill. If you ask Shirley, who's an equine chiropractor, she'll tell you that's when they're intaking the air, so their nostrils are bigger and everything's bigger at that point. And that's what looks so yummy in a photo.
Like especially for dressage, like that just shows a lot of power, carrying weight behind, like, and like, it's just a gorgeous photo. Like when I look at this horse, it looks like something that's ready to go and get a 9 on an extended canter.
So, and if you have, you know, people at home who they might be wanting to present their horse in a certain way, you know, say as a dressage prospect, the best thing that I would think that they could do would just be to start looking for other sales ads and see what strikes them, and maybe imitate kind of similar, you know. So if they're not familiar with dressage, but they want to show their horse as a dressage prospect, a shot like that, you know, where you've emphasized the horse looks its biggest and strongest and most powerful, that's probably not going to sell your Western horse very well.
Or a hunter horse, yeah. Like you look at you look at that horse and you say that's clearly a dressage horse. And you know, we do actually think about that, because sometimes I get horses in my program that are not like typical dressage horses. So you know, we'll push them a different route for hunters or eventers. And so we do actually change the way we shoot the photos dependent on the discipline. So like, I think it's also super important to think about your target market as well. So like this horse, the horse that we were just looking at, the Friesian, you know, for him, you could go back. I wanted to try to find him a serious competition home. So like, he looks big, bad, powerful, strong, fit, like everything you'd want to see in a show ring. But then like, if you go back to the 3-year-old, for her, like at this point in her career, I want her to look soft and rideable. And like, she was so adult amateur friendly, junior friendly, even at 3, that like, you know, you want to capture, really think about your target market, even in your photos and especially in your videos too. You want to be able to really kind of hone in on who you're wanting to draw the attention, because ultimately those, you know, you're going to have to filter who wants to come see the horse anyway. So
that's a really good point, Emily, to, you know, channel your photo to your target audience. And yeah, that actually would not have occurred to me to say this is, you know, the adult AMI friendly horse, but yeah, you can see it, you know, in the photo. So
do you want to go to your ad that you have?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of that ties into with like how to write a sale ad. So
I'll go to
that. You can open up that ad. So I pulled up an example of an ad that's on my website. And this mare is actually half thoroughbred, which is pretty cool, even though she's registered Oldenburg. And so like, you know, I always kind of title my ad with keywords and catchphrases. So like, when you look at the title of any advertisement, I want to be able to see like have an idea of what I'm looking at. So this mare is obviously super rideable, but she's also at FEI, which is super important to put in your ad. And then you know, like, I think it's really important to kind of highlight who your audience is there as well. So it's clear from the first, you know, 10 words of this ad, who and what I'm selling. you know, you can also add in there like incredible, kind, young, off the track thoroughbred with show experience and 3 super gates, like that. Those kinds of things that really kind of showcase what you're going to go into. When I write an ad, I definitely try to find the positive. And that can be hard because a lot of times when people send me horses to sell, it's because they haven't worked out for the previous owner. So like if I have a very difficult horse, you can still write an ad that doesn't mislead people. And you know, if you read through my ads, you can tell which horses are really amateur friendly by the title, and you can tell which ones are not. Like, you know, I might put something on there like powerful and sensitive horse. And for me, when I read that, that doesn't say put your 10-year-old kid on it. And then, you know, going back, sporty, yeah, going back to the pictures, you know, this mare, I absolutely think she'll wind up with either a young rider or an adult amateur. So the first photo at the top of her ad is like somebody just snuggling her neck after an amazing dressage test. Like that's kind of what I would pick to describe her in one picture. I mean, she has good gaits. She's obviously talented, but that's not what's going to sell this horse. What's going to sell this horse is that, you know, if Wendy wanted to go get her silver medal, she could get on and have a blast off the farm the first ride. And, you know, the other thing is I would keep separate, organized, brief paragraphs, colorful language without being ridiculous. Like you don't want to make it sound, I mean, you want to make her sound like as amazing as possible without it sounding fake. Complete information. So especially on Facebook, and it's kind of hard to sell horses on Facebook right now because they get flagged really quick for animal sales. So a lot of the time I'll just put up one really good picture and then a title that doesn't say anything about being for sale, just super fun Oldenburg mare offered for sale, showing I won. But then I always have in there the age, the height, the breed, the color. Yes, that sounds dumb, but I don't want to answer those questions. Their sex, their location. And this will help you also get set up because then you have to be ready to filter prospective buyers. And yeah, I think that's about how to write an ad.
Yeah, filtering out the buyers.
Yeah, that's the hard part. But you do want to do that. Like, I think that's really important to think about is like, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste a buyer's time. So if somebody calls me and I have a super hot off the track thoroughbred that needs to go event and they say, I'm 71 years old and I've had a bad injury and I really like to kick when I ride. I mean, I'm not going to waste the time to have them come sit on that horse. I'm going to say, oh, I don't think it's a good fit. I learned that phrase from Matt Woolley. But we do, you know, I really try to save the time with that. And then obviously we talked about how to pick the photos. Good photos are so important. I will not list a horse. Like, I mean, I just actually got off the phone with somebody who said, why is my horse not listed? Well, it's because Wendy and I haven't scheduled a photo session yet. And I'm telling you, I mean, and I tell her all the time, her photos are what sell my horses, but it's totally true. Like, we will put them up with an iPhone photo and I will get no interest. And then I will pull that ad down. We'll put them up with Wendy's photos and my phone will go off the hook ringing. And, you know, so even if you're using an iPhone, like, pick the absolute best moment that you can that showcases the horse, like, to the strongest. And you know what, if it's not a good mover, make it a good headshot. Like, do something that really can showcase the horse, because we all have plenty of those that move for like a 4, but man, are they pretty. So like, you want to try to find that. Also, when I list a horse, I make sure, I mean, the first thing people are going to ask is, can I see a video? So don't list a horse unless you have a video ready. Like, sometimes I'll do like a sneak peek and then I'll have a video later on. I also kind of wanted to mention the sale videos, which we chatted about a little bit, because I bounce ideas off Wendy a lot for those. Only show the good in the video, and try to do that as much as possible unedited. But like, if your horse has super sloppy transitions, don't throw them in there. You can have them separately to send clips to somebody privately and then explain it. Say, you know what, he's really weak to the left. We're working on those. That's why he does such and such. But once it's on the internet, it's on the internet, and people will fixate on it and they'll watch it over and over. And then, you know, half the battle is getting people out to try the horse, and then they fall in love with them. I mean, it really is kind of like a love at first sight kind of thing.
They start leaving negative comments, then that kind of just
Oh yeah, that's not
builds
fun
on
to
itself.
Right.
Always highlight the horse's strengths first thing in the video. Actually, once again, I open every video with a shot of that Wendy Woolley's done. Like usually one of the headshots is like, I put that up and then I put a title over that. And then the first movement shot is a highlight. So like that Frisian, I absolutely used his canter, and the first like 3 seconds of that video was a flying change, because to me, that's super impressive. And then take the sound out of your videos. We talked about that before we started too. Like either take it out completely or put it to music, because like if I'm watching sale videos, if it has music, I'll usually mute it. But if there's sound and I can hear people talking, I turn it up and I listen to see what they're saying about the horse, about the ride. And like, it's totally true though. Like people do that. And so you want to make sure, like, and I've done that. I have sent unedited videos by accident to people with the sound still in them. And I'm like, oh, please don't listen to that.
Yeah, what if you hear like the working students like, oh, he got his right lead this time?
Literally that, but no, it's literally that. It's, oh wow, we actually didn't buck going into the canter. And like, you know, but these are all things you like tell people when they call you, you know, and that's something too, like again, circling back to that, you know, these are not things you like necessarily hide from people, but marketing your horse, getting the interest, you want to present the best product that you can. Then when they call you and they say, well, has he ever bucked? Has he reared? Has he done this? Then you say, yeah, he does X, Y, Z. It's how you filter out the buyers. Also wanted to say things to avoid in your ads. Rambling, like repeating yourself, going on and on.
Less is more.
Less is absolutely more. Don't say things that aren't true. You know, if your horse does not have a flying lead change, please don't say schooling changes. Because I promise you the other thing is they're going to want to see video of your changes. Try to avoid people's pet peeves, like behind the vertical shots, stuff like that. People will go after you for it. And you want good press on your sale ads, not people saying, why is it behind the vertical, or your spurs are dug in its side, or whatever. Like really pick what you put out on the internet, because it's out there and people look hard.
That's why you never see videos of me riding. Just point that out. Because once it's out.
Can you bring that ad up again? Can you pull up the Oldenburg mare?
Yeah.
I feel like riding with a helmet.
Oh yeah, please put a helmet on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because that's one thing that's always impressed me, you know, with Emily's ads, you know, of course, with Wendy's photography, but also the way that Emily writes an ad is that, you know, it's very narrative, but there's not a lot of extra information that we don't need. So, you know, you kind of get drawn into this ad and you read through it. So I think one thing, you know, like this is clearly a very high-end finished dressage horse that you're marketing here, you know, and I think a large part of our audience watching tonight is probably, you know, thoroughbred makeover trainers marketing their horse that's had less than a year of training. So one thing that I just want to make clear is that this strategy is going to work for any horse. It doesn't have to be this very high-end dressage horse, you know, even though this,
Oh yeah,
this,
well, I mean, 100%.
this is just how to market a horse.
So
Your website?
yeah, if you go
Hold
to,
on. I'm going to stop sharing here.
So, but it's absolutely true. Like you still want to have the same qualities in every ad and pick the best. And you want to treat your clients the same too. So anybody who comes out to try horses, I don't care if they're there to see like one of the thoroughbreds that I'm rehoming for a couple $1,000s or a 6-figure horse, they all get met the same way. The horses turned out the same way. You know, they get offered the same coffee as everybody. I mean, truly, you want to cater to them. Like even if they're out there for a $5,000 horse, you want to make them feel, I mean, think of like a car dealership. They run out and greet you and then make you feel like you're like the best person in the world.
Emily, do you
Because
always,
these are sport horse prospects, we're marketing these thoroughbreds as, especially for this year's makeover, they haven't actually gone to the makeover itself when we're marketing them, but they are sport horse prospects, and some of these are going to be very high-end horses, so there's no reason to not market them like high-end horses, and a number
Right,
of them
exactly.
have that potential. So
you always include the price in a listing?
Okay, so that's a personal thing. So like not on Facebook, because again, you get flagged immediately if there's any $sign, but, and this is like based on trainer to trainer, and this is everybody's preference individually, but I always put a price, unless it's like an adoption situation, but people are a lot more comfortable if they can see a written price versus somebody who says, hi, 6 figures or whatever, high 5 figures. Like, what does that mean? That's really hard to describe. And then, I tell other people, like, commission is up to them to figure out. I don't like hidden commissions. And again, this is a personal preference. But yeah, I list the price up front. But then that gets tricky too, because then sometimes you'll change the price and you've got to make sure you've changed it on Facebook, on the website, on Warm Bloods for sale. Yeah. But,
I think it's a way to pre-qualify people too. If they see the price and
Yeah.
they're comfortable with it, and then they call you, then you've got a
Yeah.
hot prospect.
100%. I agree with that.
Do you want me to go to your website?
Yeah, we could pull up like Faldini's ad, which is off-track thoroughbred. So we'll show you an ad from a horse that I am selling who came off the track, I think about a year ago.
Where is it?
Faldini.
Oh, there he is.
So again, like I picked that headshot because to me, this horse looks like a Dover model. It's like something you would see modeling a bridle in a Dover magazine. But you can see that this ad is formatted exactly the same as the Oldenburg Mares ad. So I have like my brief paragraphs describing the horse exactly how I explained him. And then at the bottom, I have that key information that we talked about that has his height, his age, his breed, gelding, bay, and then his price. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of to show that it's applicable no matter what kind of horse you're looking at. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, these are actually great examples. So this off-track horse, so I tried to pick the best photos that would represent him as a dressage horse. So like, again, like you can see Wendy's canter photos where his outside hind is bearing the weight and pushing. He looks uphill. He looks pleasant. I like the trot to be pushing off of one leg. Either it's a hind leg suspended or they're firing off of one hind leg. This is actually a really great example for an off-track ad.
and about where our makeover trainers would probably be, right? You said you had this horse for about a year.
Yeah,
This is,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a
This is
cool
a
horse.
perfect example.
Yeah, he is a cool horse.
Price that reflects his quality too. So I think pricing is always a little difficult. Like we don't want to undersell. We also want to be realistic at the same time. So, and that's tough. I don't know. How would you recommend going about pricing a horse?
Man, that's hard.
That's like the $1 million.
So, like that horse that we just looked at, I mean, he is consistently mistaken for a warm blood, like consistently. So, and warm bloods are, as according to the market, worth a lot of money. So for me, that horse is also, so he has awesome gaits, like really, really super gaits, clean gaits. And to top it all off, he is wicked safe. Like anybody could hack him anywhere. He's the same
No
horse.
spook.
Yeah,
none.
no spooking. He jumps anything you point him at. He's schooling second level dressage. So like, it's hard to find where to price them, but you also have to think about like my value as a trainer. That horse has been in my program now for a year, which if you put dollar for dollar price amount to that, you got to consider that. And then horse shows mean a lot to people. Schooling shows, it doesn't matter. Getting them off the farm into public and them being good citizens in public That's huge. I mean, that's half the reason I have Wendy come to my horse shows is because I want her to photograph, like, you know, I've got a little 4-year-old right now, and he hacked around the Kentucky Horse Park, went in the ring like it's his job, and we have it on film. We have it, you know, photographed and videoed. That's what's going to sell that horse, is that he has been to a horse show.
And he's only been under saddle
45 days. Yeah.
45 days
So,
under saddle, and he's like a little rock star. He's crazy.
so, but yeah, so shows go a long way. If you show your horse, you can ask more money. It's really kind of what you put into them. And like, we all get those free courses that like are straight off the track or Greenbroke that are just quality, and you can ask a little bit more money for them. But a lot of the time it's what you put into them you can really get out of them. And that includes like maintenance, like chiropractic and all of those kinds of things too. You know, the more you take care of your horse and put into them, I feel like the more they're worth.
That was a tough question. I put you on the spot. That was not.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's a hard one. That's a hard one.
But I think it's a worthwhile discussion for sure, because every year there's always, you know, especially for the makeover trainers, there's a struggle of like, well, you know,
Yeah.
it is discipline dependent, you know, and where these horses are going to end up going. So interesting. Thank you for that. So I'm going to pause for a second and just catch up and see if anybody has any specific questions for Matt and Wendy and Emily about writing a sales ad, taking good photos, or putting together a video. And if you guys have the internet for it, do you think we could pull up one of Emily's sales videos that she's put together just to see what you're putting into them?
Sure.
Can I go back to Feldini's?
Yeah.
Vildini, I want to see you go.
Which horse I would prefer. Once again, on the spot. Thank you.
All right, so
Let's see. Or we could even do that 3-year-old mare. She's right there too. She's sold.
which one's that?
Oh, you're not on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I'm not on YouTube. I'm on your website. I was just going to click on the
You know
video.
what? Let's go to YouTube real quick. I can do this. And I'm actually going to pull up that Friesian's video because I think that would be a really good example.
Thank you for humoring me, because I'm like, do this, show me that. And while you guys are working on that too, I'll let people know. So if you are preparing your Thoroughbred Makeover Marketplace ad, information is already going to pull from your horse registration. So you're already going to have gender, height, year of birth, color, and breeding is already going to be pulled into that ad. So don't feel like you need to repeat that information in your copy, because that's just going to be more words that you don't need. So I think we've put a note on the marketplace form that information is going to pull for you, so you don't have to worry about doing that yourself.
Okay.
All right, so here we got the video queued up. Well, there's the music.
Oh, that's the other thing though. You do want your music to match your horse.
Yeah, this suits him.
Yeah, it's kind of powerful and fun.
Yeah.
I know the canner's ridiculous. We actually sold this horse off of video, so this is a good example. And like, actually, you know, you would want it to be a little more steady than this too. This was me on a horse shaking in the cold. But obviously I love his canner, so you can watch a lot of his canner. And he's still cannering because it's really good. Still cannering.
But again, you know, you mentioned this is the video that sold the horse, so.
I also also, like this horse, I did want to show that there's traffic in the arena. So some kind of that kind of stuff can be actually beneficial. So he goes with other horses. Things like that actually mean a lot to people.
He's still cannering.
Still cannering, yeah, it's really a good canner. I like it a lot too. I didn't love his trot so much, if you can't tell. Still canner. Yeah. But the canner's so good. You counter canners too, that's important. Did I show Trot in this? Oh, there it goes.
there
Look
we
at
go,
Trot.
it's
It
Trot.
does Trot. It can trot too.
Both ways.
Let's try.
Oh, this makes me think. So another kind of important thing is when I'm shooting a sale video, I actually kind of think of it like a freestyle as well. And what I mean by that is you want to show all three gaits. That's super important, that you can show walk, trot, and canter. And then you only really want to show tricks, like movements, if there's no question to, like in a freestyle, you only show movements if there's no question to a judge what you're doing. So same thing with the sale video. Like if I watch a sale video and I'm like, oh, I think that was supposed to be a half pass, but I'm not really sure. Like you don't want to show that. You want to be able to say, wow, what a good half pass. So like, you know, that horse, yes, he had good changes, started, but he really wasn't good laterally yet. So I just showed, like, highlight the changes and then show the gaits kind of thing. You know, I wouldn't put out there like a mediocre half pass or a mediocre canter walk, walk canter, stuff like that.
So better basics than
Yeah.
kind of halfway advanced stuff would be a good
Yeah,
start.
right. Quality, definitely quality over quantity for sure.
All right, let's go back just to photos for a minute because that is going to be a big one for people. So, you know, Matt showed us in that first video that he was down fairly low. And what were you aiming your lens towards exactly to get that?
Oh, as I get older, I've been actually bringing a bucket to sit on as the knees get worse. So I'm trying to sit at a certain level to give the horse prominence, but I'm straight out from the girth or just a little bit behind the girth. I want a nice prominent hip, and again balance, just like the sport horses. It's all balanced. There's no set in stone exact place you have to have the feet, because they will vary from horse to horse. If a horse is long or short. We have air traffic going over here.
I looked at my sky like I was going to see it here. Yeah.
No, you'll hear people say that the left hind has to be exactly vertical, and that's just an absolute myth. If it's camped out a little bit or a little bit long in the back, that makes the horse look balanced a little bit, then that's fine. There are definitely horses that do need that hip, that left hind to be straight up and down. Gunrunner is one that comes to mind because it makes, as the leg goes under his hip, it makes his hip more prominent. So,
My favorite person.
but balance is the key, and the perspective, the horizon line, the little head turn, and
Getting the ears pricked.
getting the ears pricked.
Wendy has an app on her phone that has all the animal noises ever. And so one of my girls, we should film that sometime. One of my girls will take Wendy's phone and like crouch down in front of the horse and like hit the animal noise buttons until like a duck noise or whatever it is that horse says, oh my gosh, what's that? And then we have to be careful about it, because if you
have to be careful.
Yeah.
If you do it too much with the sounds, if you just keep going, and I'm not saying, you know, I'm the photographer, I'm down there and we're setting the feet, and our sound person's just sitting there hitting whinny after whinny after whinny on the phone. Well, you know, the horse becomes immune to it if you keep doing that. So,
or psychotic.
right, or psychotic.
Timing is everything.
Timing
So
really is
you really do need to just, like, when the photographer is ready to shoot, then you can do your sounds. I don't know if you noticed in that video that I put up when we were doing Fantastic, Matt was yelling at the guys, okay, we need his head lower. And so they stopped with their hats and jumping up and down. And then Funtastic put his head down. And then Matt's like, okay, ear pricks now. And then we all went back to doing something. But that's what it takes. You just can't overdo it, because then the horse is either, the worst part is if they become immune to it. And then you just have a hard time getting ear pricks. And for us with the thoroughbreds, a lot of them, especially the babies, they don't know what a treat is. They don't know.
Mine do.
And so,
Yes.
so that's why I use the sounds a lot, because I can go to any farm, any horse, and do it. I don't have to have, the special treats just for this horse. What Mrs. Pasture's cookies for this horse, or peppermints for that other horse. I don't have to worry about that with the sounds.
This is the one tip I can actually contribute to this webinar, and I actually stole this from Jen Reutz, our executive director, but we've been doing a lot of product photos for our RP store here, and it's usually just me and my husband, so it's not a lot of people to be holding the horse and getting the ears up. So we found if you use a duck call or a turkey call, you just put it down, and then your hands are still free to do something else. So if you have limited people around, just get your hands, run down to your outdoor store and get a turkey call or a duck call, and that usually works if you don't have enough people to be holding and doing the ears and making noise and taking the photos. So it's my one tip of the night. You're welcome.
Oh, another quick tip of the night is, if you do hire a photographer and they schedule for you at 1 p.m., please have your horse ready at 1 p.m. Don't be getting you're welcome. Don't be getting the horse out and just starting to curry it at 1 p.m. Like, have it ready to go down center line at 1 p.m. so that they can pull up, get their equipment out, and go. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of things you might, I've got a couple notes on an old blog post that you could have on hand. Things like duct tape. If it's breezy, the mane will blow up, and it's probably more important for thoroughbreds than sport horses because they're braided. But we're always shooting from the near side, and most 95% of the time the mane goes over the far side. So if it's breezy, the mane will blow up. So if you bring some duct tape and duct tape down the mane, keep it from blowing up, save you a lot of time in Photoshop.
Yes, it'll save a lot of time.
Same thing, styling hair gel. You can just goop it on the mane because you're not going to see it anyway, and keep it from blowing up. The horse noises, you can, anything, the hat, rocks in a plastic bottle, little shaker thing, but again, timing is everything. And we always put some tape on the ground where we want the horse's feet to be. So that gives us the exact line that we're looking for, which is perpendicular to the sun. And
that helps the handlers know where to go. When they bring the horse out, you can kind of get the whole process going, and it helps communication.
So I'll visualize what background I want with the focal length I'm using, and put tape down on the ground saying this is between, this background is going to be between this barn and this, this walker or something. It's going to be pretty clean. The horse stays right here. Good communication is the key. The fewer words, the better. You want the right hind forward or left hind back, short, succinct communication. And then my last tip is a tip. If we're at a big stallion farm, we will tip the crew. And nobody really likes to see the photographers when they show up, because it's
or bring donuts.
Yeah, bring donuts. So,
I'm telling Mary.
we'll butter them up a little bit so they don't dread the next time we come back.
Yeah, and another thing, and you guys can probably also agree to this, photographers really hate photoshopping. So like, have white wraps and white saddle pads. Don't have dirty wraps and dirty saddle pads and say, oh, you can Photoshop it, right? Because I've done that to Wendy, and like, Wendy likes me a lot, and I can read her face that literally says, I want to hurt you.
Yeah.
So those things are really important. Your tack clean, all of that kind of stuff. And the braiding thing, we sometimes leave the horse's mane down. Like if I have a horse with a spindly neck, I leave their mane down so that it looks like bigger.
Fuller.
Yeah. If I have a horse with a big, beautiful neck, then we'll do the big Dutch braids on them.
So speaking of Photoshop, if someone is just at home with basic camera equipment, can you fake, one of those sort of deep field photos by trying to blur your background in Photoshop? We already talked a little bit about
Well, you know,
on the black background, but
yeah, my problem with that is then, at least, I don't know how other people feel, but I feel that if you've done something kind of hokey to the photo, somebody's going to wonder about the subject of the photo.
The
What
horse-
did they
the
do
horse
to the
himself.
horse? If they did this to the background, maybe they did something to the horse. So I like to steer clear of that. A lot of people will even remove the reins, and I think that's
Or
kind
the
of,
halter.
I just think
shank.
that's kind of weird. I mean, no horse is just going to randomly just stand there by itself
Yeah,
looking
without,
like that.
without a shank.
And some people really love to take that out, and that's great. It's my personal preference. I like to keep those things in because it makes sense to me. And I don't think it's going to hurt a sale if you see the reins or if you don't see the reins. Anyways, I just like to leave as few questions in a photo as possible. So I'm not going to do much photoshopping. And that's why when Emily went through the phase of, oh, my double chin, I was like, no, you're fine.
I did. I was like, okay, Wendy, like you have to fix my face in every picture. She's like, I'm not sure that we're a good fit. No, she didn't. Say that. But like that kind of stuff really does annoy them.
Well, it takes a lot of time
It
for
does
your
take a lot of
photographer.
time.
It will take a lot of
Okay,
time.
but
And
in
if
my
you need
defense,
these,
I figured out a really high collar that I could wear.
yeah, Emily did figure out a collar, so I wouldn't have to Photoshop.
no, but it would be better to have, even if you have a lower quality camera, just to put an undoctored photo, even if it's a lower quality, just to let that be your photo, even though you're like, well, I feel like I could make it look higher end if I tweaked with it. It's never going to look the same.
Quite right. If it starts looking a little wonky,
Photoshop.
if it looks photoshopped,
Yeah.
And people are
Then-
going to wonder what else you might have done.
Right.
yeah, then
That's just to try to head people off before they're like, I think I can make this look like it was done with a fancier camera. Like, it's just better to have just a nice,
I think you
well
look-
staged, good looking horse.
Yeah.
even if
I wouldn't blur out the background or stretch the legs out, but if you've got like flyaways in the mane, then it may make more sense. If you've got a good setup and the horse is looking good, that it may make more sense to Photoshop the mane than to have somebody go tape down the mane and set the horse up again. So there's a balance there. And you don't want to wear out the crew too. So you want to shoot pretty quick. When you've got it, you've got it. You don't want to wear out the people there. So
yeah.
That's true.
So,
All right, do we have any other questions from our live attendees? If so, get them typed in now, because I think feels like we're wrapping up. But if you guys have anything else to add, definitely. We're having fun, so we can just talk about taking pictures of horses all night. But we'll see if anybody has anything that they want to ask you guys specifically. And if you're watching this on review later and you have a question, you're certainly welcome to send it in to info@retiredracehorseproject.org, and we can get that over. Oh, I see we have a Q&A. Oh, Lisa wants to know, Emily, where did you get the music for that video?
That's actually a really good question. So YouTube actually has stock music. So if you go and upload your video to YouTube, and they edit it in there, I think it's called like Studio or Creator Studio. You can opt to take the original audio out and put music in. And the way I search for the music is because I think it looks really stupid when you have like a song and it ends a minute earlier than your video. So I actually search for the music based on the video length, and then I try to match it to the horse as best as possible. So I don't really.
There's a ton of music in it. I've used that before.
Yeah, it does, right. And it's like all different genres and
it's free to use. Anybody can use it, which is nice.
Yeah.
You're not.
and then you don't get flagged for, sometimes if you use other people's music, YouTube will take your video down because you've used unauthorized.
it's copyrighted.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
copyrighted material. That's for sure.
So Lisa, hope that answers that question for you. Jessica Turner says, love you guys. That's helpful.
Hey, Jess.
Hey.
So it doesn't look like we have any other questions coming in. So I think we will wrap it up. But thank you guys so much for your time telling us a little more about how to market a sales horse. I know I got a lot out of
I
that.
think that was pretty cool. I didn't really realize that they were so different. You know, your way of marketing and horse
Yeah.
farms and stallions and yearlings and sales horses versus sport horses. I didn't really realize all those differences.
Well, your darling wife here has like adapted to, she she has figured out what we like.
She lives in both worlds.
But she's so sweet. She sat down with one of my clients yesterday and legitimately went through hundreds of photos, photo by photo by photo, to make her happy.
She had a specific thing in her head. And I sat down and we went through what it was that she wanted. And just, I don't know everything. And I try my best to get good photos, and I'm always happy to have the input by the owner. So.
But Matt, I think that's a good point, though, is that, you know, there might be some differences in the end product, but a lot of the basics are the same. Like how to take a good photo of a horse is going to be the same, regardless if you're shooting a sport horse or a thoroughbred stallion or a yearling or you know, a reiner or who knows. So I think, you know, at their core, I think there's actually a lot more similarities than differences. So, but thank you guys so much for sharing your expertise with us, and hopefully we have had a request. Wendy, can you Photoshop my left heel down?
Oh, that's from Jessica. I know that's from Jessica, isn't it? Oh, it totally is.
It's your rogue left heel. Can't do it.
If you're going to do that, bring a lot of beer for your photographer if you're for your sales photos. That's my professional tip of the night. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And again, if anybody has any additional questions,
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
Oh, we're still live on Facebook. Quick, Matt, sing your song.